Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 750A, and today's date is August 25th, 2015, and the title of this episode is The Market Crash is a Small Glimpse of the Economic Disaster Heading Our Way. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. Tomorrow, Wednesday, I'll be uploading an interview with Chris Martenson. We're discussing the markets, what's been happening, what we should prepare to see when the collapse occurs. If you are on the X22Report.com email alert system, you will get an email to let you know the interview has been uploaded. If you are on the YouTube channel X22 Report Spotlight, you should get an email from YouTube. If not, you can come right over to the YouTube channel, just type in X22 Report Spotlight, and it'll bring you to the video. If you'd like to come over to the X22Report.com site, you can see the video on the right-hand side. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we understand out in Asia, in Europe, Asia had quite a bit of a problem with their markets. The Nikkei was down. We see Europe was able to push their market back up. The United States tried to push it up with the plunge protection team. They did it all day long. But they couldn't keep the market up. You have to remember, the retail investor, those who are investing, those people who want to get out, they're selling off right now. And it looks like they were trying to convince everyone that everything is fine. The markets are way back up. I saw all the headlines. Market reaches 300 points, 350 points. Everything is fantastic. And then right after lunch, everything started to slide. And we have to remember one thing. This stock market is really the last indicator to let us know that the collapse is actually here. And when I say here, it means that the central bank and the government will acknowledge it. The corporate media will finally say, yes, we're in a collapse situation. But we know up until this point, we've been in a collapse situation. We've been looking at all the indicators. This is not a surprise. But you have to remember, the central bank does not want to be blamed for this. So they got to do whatever they got to do to blame this on someone else. They're already starting the blame game on China. But when we look throughout Europe, is Europe really okay just because the stock market was pumped up? No, it is not. I mean, UBS, they downgraded its Eurozone growth forecast on Monday. But they're saying, don't worry, even though we're downgrading, Europe is still in a recovery. No, what they're doing right now is they're saying, okay, Europe is not looking that great. Let's start downgrading right now because we're going to have to go further down as the year goes on. We saw this, we continually see this with GDP, where they say in the beginning of the year or the year previous that GDP is going to be at 3%. Then we start the year, it's a disaster. They lower it to 2.7. We go through the middle of the year, okay, it's 2%. And they continually do this all throughout the year because they know that this whole thing is a complete phony economy. And they're controlling it as best as they possibly can. But sometimes you can only control so much. Here in the United States, I see it all over the corporate media. And they're saying U.S. consumer confidence is the highest we've seen in 2015. And then I started looking closely at this. And what you realize is the information they're taking is from a U.S. government-sponsored conference board. And they're reading it from there, saying that U.S. consumer confidence soared to the highest in August. But if you go to the non-government-sponsored, like Gallup, it's the actual opposite. Now, of course, as we know, the corporate media is not going to go to Gallup and say, okay, consumer confidence is way down when they have the sponsored conference board saying that it's way up because the government wants the good news out there to convince everyone that we're in a recovery. But Gallup, when you look at it, says the actual opposite. And if you really look at this, think about this. I mean, tumbling stocks, China melting down, people can't afford homes, automobiles, major appliances, they're all tumbling. And the government is trying to convince us that confidence is high. People are being laid off, 55,000 in HP and many others, which we reported on. They're trying to convince us that everyone is thumbs up here. And this is what the government does. They use their information that they sponsor, they use their information that they manipulate to convince you that everything is fine. Gallup explains this latest average was the result of 37% of Americans saying the American economy is getting better and 58% saying no, it's completely getting worse. And then we start seeing other economic indicators to show that, this economy is not getting better. We see services PMI dip from 55.7 to 55.2, back towards the lowest levels of 2015. Market notes, underlying momentum within the U.S. economy had shifted down a gear even before the recent global market turmoil. We've been seeing this. And we're seeing a lot more layoffs. Runkeeper is going to be laying off 30% of their staff. Royal DSM, 900 to 1,100 worldwide. Boeing, 100. This is an update for A&P. They're going to be laying off 8,648 workers. This system right now is accelerating. It's collapsing. And it's getting out of control. And what the central bank and what the U.S. government are trying to do is control it. And they're having a very difficult time doing this. We see manufacturing collapses to 2015 lows. The 3-month bounce in Richmond Fed Manufacturing Survey is completely dead right now. From July 13th in July, August saw it collapse to 0. This is the biggest absolute drop in the index since May of 2006. Shipments plunged, new orders cliff diving, order backlogs disappearing, and capacity utilization plunging. This is exactly what we would expect after a massive inventory buildup that was not accompanied by a surge in sales. And this is what's happening. Inventories are continually building up because they're trying to keep manufacturing up, and it's all falling apart right now. This is why we see the Baltic Dry Index right now falling once again. It's now at 942. Manufacturing is plummeting. Now the housing market is a complete and utter disaster. They're coming out saying this is the best housing season we've seen. July looks fantastic. But when we really look at the information, we see that home prices dipped in June. This was a 3rd month in a row that it missed expectations. According to Case-Shiller 20 City Index, missing expectations for the 3rd month in a row, price appreciation has now been flat for 5 months, despite surging home sales. That's very odd. San Francisco saw price depreciation once again. Portland and Denver saw the most appreciation in June. Other cities are now seeing price depreciation. Case-Shiller warned that if there is a rate hike by the Fed, it will stymie housing considerably. Well, we talked about this. We know. If they increase the interest rates, it will kick most of the people out of the housing market. And we will see the same thing that happened back in 2008 when interest rates started to rise. People are just going to leave their home because a lot of these people are on adjustable rate mortgages because they really can't afford these houses that they're in. A lot of these people are subprime. A lot of people put no money down, so they have no problem walking away from the houses. And we're continually seeing this type of information, and we know, and I've been looking around the entire country, prices are coming down and they're starting to spread to many cities. And it will continue to spread. The U.S. Census Bureau reported latest July new residential sales data, which is at 507,000, was a modest miss to expectations of 501. But we have to remember, They completely seasonally adjust these numbers all the time. And June, that number was 481,000. This is not a great improvement for the summer months. The summer months, this is the hot season for real estate. This is when people are going out and buying. And we're not seeing a run on real estate right now. We're seeing a real estate market that is kind of flatlined. Now, if you've been watching the market, we saw the market come down last week and on Monday, and gold pretty much didn't go anywhere, which is odd in itself. And then all of a sudden today, the market was pumped up and everyone was screaming and yelling, it's all over, everything is fine, which it might be. We might go the next day, the day after, and they might be able to pump this market right back up. Of course, this will give a lot of the people false recovery feelings that everything is fine, we're back on track. Well, don't get suckered into this. But we saw gold slam down during the pump up because they're trying to keep all eyes on the market, not on gold. And what's very interesting about all of this, during this complete market meltdown, Obama calls the economy stronger after the crash, after there was 1.8 trillion of wealth that completely vanished. And it was all sent to the elite because they know exactly what's going on with the market. They know when to do something because, again, this is completely manipulated. It's controlled by the central bankers. It's not an open, fair market. And what's very odd about all of this is it's starting to mimic 1929, 2008, where we see in the summer months, if we go back to August of 1929, we see that the market dropped. And it dropped, and it went back up, and people thought, oh, we're back in a recovery. Everything is fine. We saw in 2008, we were at the highs in May of 13,000 points. July it dropped to 11,000 points. August, it was pumped back up to 11,008. And then guess what happened in October? It completely fell apart. Here in August of 2015, we were at a high of about 18,100 points. August dropped down to 16,000. Now, during these times, each time, they called this a correction. And after the correction, they said everything is fine. The economy is stronger. And what we are seeing with the corporate media, they're out there saying that, we have never seen a gain like this when the market went up today, during a down market, which is completely untrue because 6 of the 10 largest point gains in history of the stock market occurred between September 2008 and March 2009. October 13, 2008, we saw an increase of 936 points. October 28, 2008, an increase of 889 points. And it goes on and on and on. Just because they can pump the market up doesn't mean things are better. It means they're pumping it up, trying to make them better. And guess what? They can only do so much because the real market will always take over. Mark Farber is out there, and he predicts the next year is going to be an especially bruising one for investors. He says, I do not believe the global economy is healing. I believe the global economy is heading into a slump. If the global economy were doing so fantastically well, how would it be that commodities collapsed to the extent that they have declined? Preceding every bubble, you have a huge expansion of credit. That was the case in 1997 to 2000, 2003 to 2007, and the same thing that's been happening right now. And we're going to see the same crash once again. We heard from Bill Holter. He was right on the money. Monday was going to be a complete disaster. Today they tried to pump it up. It didn't work. The market came down 200 points. And we know as we go forward, even if they can, which most likely they will, pump the market up again, it's going to convince everyone that everything is fine. But don't fall into this trap. Don't fall into, okay, the market went back up, maybe not as high as before, but it looks like everything is A-okay. This is a dead cat bounce. This is complete fake, phony, and false. This is to get more people into the market for the big collapse. This is to trick everyone to think that here's the correction, everything is fine. Everyone needs to be prepared still. Everyone needs to get food, water, supplies. Everyone needs to go out and get medical supplies, gold, silver, cash. Keep it on hand. Have a weapon to protect your family. Make sure everything is ready to go. If you haven't started, you can go to lifereliance.com. They have bug out bags, water, seeds, everything you need. They can even customize it for you. You just need to be ready for what is coming. Nothing's changed. Everything that we've been talking about is exactly the same. Remember, just continually remember this. The stock market is absolutely meaningless. It's just a signal for the government and the corporate media to say, yes, finally, we're in a collapse situation. Because that's the only time they will admit it, is when the market comes down. And you have to remember, the central bank does not want to be blamed for this collapse. This is why we hear all the propaganda coming out saying it's all China's fault. This might shift into another country to bring them on board. But you can see already the blame game has started. All part of their plans. All part of their plan to take the blame off themselves. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.